Hi, lovely souls, and welcome back to She Feels Everything, the podcast for empaths, highly sensitive people, and spiritual souls. I'm your host, Gill Minto. Today's episode is one that's very close to my heart. We're going to talk about what it feels like to be pushed to perform, whether that's at school, in sports, in your family, or even later in life at work or in relationships. If you were ever told to smile more, try harder, or just get on with it, this episode is for you. We'll explore how those early external pressures shape us as sensitive souls and how we can reclaim our right to simply be without always performing or proving our worth. When I was little, I was naturally quiet and observant, and people often assumed that meant I was shy. But the truth was, I wasn't hiding. I was protecting my inner world. I remember at school I was constantly being told to speak up, join in, and come out of my shell. It was strange, really, because I think in the class that I was in, there was a lot of kind of extroverted people in there that wanted to show off. So I naturally was the one just to stand back. And I think that stood out more because uh, I wasn't like a one to join in immediately, and I was always the one to sort of just stand back and observe how everyone was moving and how everyone was acting. And yeah, it was quite amusing, I think, to everybody else as well as to myself, I guess, as well. I know at church, participation was really everything, I think. Certainly, I know I've mentioned my family was like the centre of the Methodist Church, and I went to Sunday school, youth groups, choir when I was a bit later, when I was a bit older. But we did church Christmas plays, things like that, and you kind of expected almost to want to join in. And what's wrong with you? Why do you not want to participate? Why do you not want to do these things? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love being around people, but you kind of felt that almost that external pressure to to join in. Yeah, so you were very much expected to perform, to be seen, and to do well. It was your peers, everyone. It just felt a bit, certainly when I was going through school, that pressure was sometimes a little bit too much. I mean, I don't know whether you can remember what it was like, exam time at school. I mean, I was more of a practical person. So exams, when it came to revising for exams, I found that really, really tough. And that external pressure when it came to the exam day, that external pressure to have to perform on the day, and knowing that that was the be all and end all, that if you didn't, then, what you're labelled as, you get crap grades at school, pardon the expression. And that reflects back on you, doesn't it, later on in life? There's a lot of pressure on children and on kids to perform. I know that it did change a little bit when I got older, when I was in comprehensive, because I know the last year when I was in the fifth form, my last year of school, of comprehensive school, that was the year they brought in GCSEs. So it was more, we were called the guinea pigs of that, because it was the first year doing that sort of, before A levels and O levels, that GCSEs were a very new thing. And that was a little bit easier, but that was my last year at school. And it was more practical, so you have more practical things throughout the year. So it wasn't as much pressure to perform in my final exam. But yeah, that stress. Certainly as a sensitive soul, I found that sort of pressure to be too much. And it stood out because as soon as I left school when I was 15, and I was the youngest in the class because my birthday is in August. So, I was the youngest, one of the young ones to leave, and I didn't stay on to do A levels or anything like that because I just didn't get on. I didn't get on at school, really. I didn't like it too much. But so when I left, I found college a lot easier, a lot better. And it showed because my grades were a lot better too as soon as I left school. I think that pressure was off and I enjoyed it a lot more. I can still feel the pressure in my body when I think back to things like sports days at school as well. I mean, I've mentioned that I shouldn't say I do. I have a physical disability. And I was one of the first, it was quite funny. Even though there was a lot of pressure, I loved sports day. When I was in junior school, anyway, and I was always one of the first ones to put my hand up to join in. And I used to love doing the sprint. And it was really nice, actually, even in comprehensive school when we were in the different houses, as they called them then. I can't remember which one I was in, but they were always actually really, really nice. And they let me join in at sports day, even though, because of my physical difference with my right leg, that I wouldn't be able to run as fast as everybody else, but it was the participation. So that wasn't so much pressure, but there was a pressure on sort of your house winning, and if you didn't win in that particular, in the sprinting, then everyone was looking at you. School plays, I remember doing things like that and wondering why. In the class I was in, they used to just push me forward and say, "Oh, Gill will do this." When it was like one of the main parts in. Now, I can't remember which play it was. I think The Crucible comes to mind. It was one of those that was ironic, really, that was on like the witch trials. Salem witch trials, if I'm getting the name of that right. Someone will probably correct me. It was on that sort of thing, and I played one of the main parts. And I'm thinking back, I wonder if that's quite ironic how I was playing someone who was accused of witchcraft. And now, I've sort of got that natural healing ability from my past ancestral witch, witch line somewhere, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? I'm digressing a bit. Do you know where I'm coming from, though? The endless tests and grades that were pushed on you really to perform. I think it's still like that now. I know that there's a lot more pressure too, even at a younger age, to hit the grades, necessary to be something in life. And I've always said, I left with not very good grades at all. And I had a really good career in the NHS, I would say, till I had my spiritual awakening. And I woke up and sort of realised I was in the totally wrong career. I decided to leave and pursue a more spiritual, flexible career. There's a lot of pressure, external pressure, certainly when you're younger. leaving school, getting a career, making something of yourself. It's a lot of pressure. It wasn't always malicious. A lot of adults thought they were just encouraging me. I know that. School teachers are there to do a job, aren't they? They're there to encourage. But I mean, for me, it felt like being pulled away from my true self. I think that's certainly from going to school and in early adulthood. I wasn't my authentic self. I was somebody else, somebody I can't really recognize now. But I guess you have to go through all that to realize and come back to yourself, come back home to yourself. So I started to believe that I had to work hard to be accepted, to perform to be loved, and that just being me wasn't enough. And it is sad, really, when you think about it, how that is. It's a little bit what I was saying last week. I think we need to balance it out sometimes, yes, pressure, yes, to perform, but have the balance so you can retreat and come back to yourself, and have that space to recover and recharge. Something to think about. So I'd now like to read a little bit from my book, from chapter 3, which is called Push to Perform. And this is where I talk about being pushed to perform, or about more like protecting my inner world. As I moved into childhood and adolescence, the pressure to be someone I wasn't only intensified. My environment was full of expectations, not malicious, just misaligned. Everyone assumed I was a shy girl who needed a bit of a push. But the truth was, I wasn't hiding. I was protecting my inner world. It's just that no one could see that. I was still so young, but already I had learned to suppress my instincts in order to meet the expectations of others. I said yes when I meant no. I smiled when I wanted to cry. I stood in front of congregations when I would have given anything to curl up in silence. Every time I pushed myself to do something that went against my nervous system, a little piece of my authenticity was chipped away. But back then, I didn't know that's what was happening. I just thought something was wrong with me. Over time, I built invisible armor, soft on the outside, protective on the inside. I became good at hiding how I really felt, good at pretending to cope, but my body kept the score. I would have emotional outbursts at home, and no one could figure out where they came from. Looking back now, I know I was overwhelmed, not just mentally, but energetically. I didn't know how to shield myself from other people's feelings, and didn't know how to process my own. And I certainly didn't have the tools to decompress after being on all day. I'd now like to read a soul note from my heart to yours. If you were ever pushed to perform, to be louder, stronger, braver, happier, I want you to know that you were always enough. You never had to earn your worth by being the best student, the fastest runner, the most helpful child. Your quiet moments were not laziness, they were wisdom. Your sensitivity was not weakness, it was the gift that would one day guide you home to yourself. Today, I invite you to lay down the pressure to perform. You are not here to impress anyone. You are here to be, to feel, to breathe, to live as you, fully and unapologetically. Now let's take a moment to come back to ourselves. Place one hand on your heart. Place your feet on the floor. Close your eyes if it feels comfortable, or softly gaze towards the floor. With a hand on your heart, you can place the other hand on your belly if you wish. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and sigh out through your mouth. And again, take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and sigh out through your mouth. Feel the rise and fall of your belly. Feel your heart beating for you. This is your breath anchoring you. Repeat quietly to yourself, I am enough. I don't have to perform. I am safe to be me. Let's take one more deep breath together. Breathe in and breathe out. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. I hope this episode reminded you that you were never meant to be anyone other than yourself. If this resonated, I'd love for you to share this episode with a friend who needs to hear it too. Or leave me a review. It really helps other sensitive souls find this podcast. And if you want to go deeper, my book, She Felt Everything, dives into this in chapter 3. It's available to buy on Amazon, in Kindle and paperback. And I'd love for you to read along with me. Until next time, take a deep breath, drop the performance, and come back to your heart. With love, light, and blessings from Gill, the inner healing empath. She feels everything.